Thank you. How is everyone? Doing good? I want to make sure we don't have more than 250 people here. I promise we did not bring the coronavirus with us, although who knows what's going to happen. It's actually, just so everybody knows, the coronavirus may affect your tourism this summer. However, even in places like China, if we believe them, say that it's actually starting to plateau and starting to decline. And so we'll see how that plays out. But that's not what we're going to talk about today. I'm just really glad you're all here. So I want to start with what the heck is this whole assessment thing? And I'll tell you a little bit about my background. We have been here since last Sunday in Port McNeill. Normally we come in on a Monday, but I thought, you know what? I've never been up to the northern end of Vancouver Island, and I'll tell you more about that in a minute. And so I thought, let's give ourselves an extra day or so. And it's a good thing we did, because otherwise we might have missed a couple of things. And we didn't have David, the town council, nobody gave us any heads up at all. They just said, come like any other first-time visitor. And so they didn't tell us where we should stay, where we should go, nothing. So we came in just like anybody else that would be coming here. And just so you know, when it comes to doing these assessments, we have done nearly 2,000 of them across Canada, the United States, and even in Western Europe and Scandinavia. Last year we were working in Switzerland. But in BC, we actually worked in Whistler. I started my career doing Whistler, and these weren't all necessarily assessments. They were places that we have worked in BC for quite a while, and we did assess all of the Kootenay Rocky towns, from Nelson and Castlegar and Cusp, all of those towns. And so we have been around quite a bit. I also was speaking in, where was I? In Merritt. And so I know BC pretty well because I used to live for a while in North Vancouver. But where I grew up was in Friday Harbor on San Juan Island. I actually graduated from so in the San Juans, if you know the San Juans, next to the Gulf Islands. So I came from an island. My graduating class had 30 people in it. And so I understand small towns, island living, and so I understand that. And our life revolved around ferries. Even there, Anacortes to Friday Harbor and Orcas Island, all of those. And so that is where I hail from. Half my classmates were from Victoria. So I already had a really good connection to Vancouver Island. However, I had never been north of Campbell River until this week. So, and I am here with my wife, Jane. Jane, go ahead and stand up. She's way back there. There she is. You cannot go in and secret shop a place without a woman, because women see things totally different than men. It's actually true. And women account for most of the spending and most of the decision making. I'm waiting. There's usually a guy in the audience that spouts up and says, tell me something I didn't already know. So when we do this assessment, and by the way, we're here this time of year for a reason. We want to see what it's like for you during mud season. We want to see what it's like when it's not really busy. Because for you, even if you want to be in tourism, you have to be more than just half of June, July, and August. I mean, that's not sustainable for anybody in the tourism industry. So we wanted to see what it was like this time of year. And so when we do this whole assessment, we look at marketing, we look at websites. Was it easy to find information about North Vancouver Island or even Port McNeill? And was it good enough to close the sale to make us want to come here as a visitor, as a place to live? How do you stack up against everybody else, on Vancouver Island or even over on the mainland? But then most of our focus was on site. We looked at your signage, your gateways, your wayfinding. Wayfinding is directional signage so we could find stuff. Your overall appeal. What was our first impression? Is this a place we'd want to live? Critical mass, I'll explain that. That's retail and the kind of businesses that you have. Amenities like public parking, washrooms, information. What is there to see and do? And then how's customer service? So we looked at all of those. And then, what do I have here? Our entire focus of this is what can we do more in Port McNeill to be even better? So this is not a critique of anything you've done in the past. We're not going backwards. I always say today's the first day of the rest of your lives. What can we do today to make it even better? So even though I might say you need to do this and this and this, it doesn't mean that in the past you've done it wrong. We're just trying to find ways you could do it better. And doing this assessment, we wore 3 different hats. The first one is this a place I'd want to live, raise a family, retire? So quality of life. Number 2, is this a place I'd want to work in or invest in, bring a business, move a business, start a business? And then thirdly, as a place to visit, but more than a day trip. And during this presentation, I'm going to give you some statistics. First of all, tourism is the front door to your non-tourism economic development. Anybody's going to come here, a site selector, a venture capitalist, a local business, a banker, anybody, they're coming here first as what? A visitor. Is this a place my client would want to live, their employees would want to be? And that's how we're looking at this. It is the front door. And the second one is, I always say that shift happens. That's with an F in there. For the first time in Canadian history, quality of life is leading economic development. That never happened before. As a matter of fact, jobs are going where the talent is or where the talent wants to be. So if Port McNeill is a fantastic place we want to live, you will get millennials, you'll get younger generations coming here, and they will work hard to find a way to make a living versus coming here because there was a job. And that is changing everything. So in us coming here, we decided to plan the trip. Just so you know, even though I come from the Northwest and we lived in the Seattle area and I grew up in the San Juans, we now live in the Phoenix, Arizona area. So we went from 50 days of sunshine to 300. And that's in Seattle. And so we, of course, flew up to Seattle in this case. We could have flown to Vancouver, but we flew up to Seattle. And then what we did is we did drive up to Tawasin. We spent the night there, and then Sunday morning, we caught the ferry over to Nanaimo, and then we drove up. And it was really great when we did this. And so, first thing is, I would always encourage your visitors, even though, so now I'm going to come from a tourism perspective, I would always have them come via the coastal route. So once you get off the boat in Nanaimo, take the coastal route, because I got to tell you, it takes a little longer, another half hour or whatever, but you're driving through the coast in Parksville and Campbell River, and it's just part of the experience. And I think it's okay to sell that part experience. That part of the fun of visiting the north end of Vancouver Island is the fact that the scenery is amazing. The drive itself is absolutely worth it. And during this presentation, you're going to see a lot of those. Those are suggestions. You will not see any recommendations here, because I think it'd be pretty presumptuous for me to come into Port McNeill and tell you what you should do when I never talk to you first. So these are suggestions. You may even say, oh, we're already working on that, or we already do that. Then great, you've just been validated. So you may see some of that as we go through this. So I think it's really important, and I love doing that coastal route. And of course, once you get north of Campbell River, you're on 19 all the way up, and it's fantastic. Now, we did stay at the Black Bear Resort. I think resort is kind of pushing it a little bit, considering I started my career developing Whistler Resort. And just so you know, the definition of a resort is a place that would have at least 2 to 3 retail shops, at least 2 restaurants. And so sometimes we tend to get a little bit, but it was a great place. Now, the reason we stayed there, because remember, nobody said where to stay, is we're like most other people. We looked up Black Bear Resort once we looked at it on TripAdvisor. I'm going to talk about it. But for everybody here in business, this right here is critically important. That is Google My Business. If you go to Google, if you go google.com/business, this is free. And every business, so when we type in the name of a business, do you show up? I could see that on Google, they have, where is this? There it is. They have 4.1 out of 5, so 4 stars out of 5. That's 199 Google reviews. Gives me their address, the phone number. I could even check availability on Google, hotel details, and then but there's a question down here at the bottom. And so there it is. I can go to directly to the website. I can get directions. I can save it. I get all of this information. I can type in the days I want to stay there. This is without ever leaving a search engine. That's how powerful Google is. Love them or hate them, they kind of control the world in this aspect. And then we got free Wi-Fi, free breakfast, indoor pool, laundry service. But then when you scroll down there, all the way down to the bottom, there it is. You want to answer quick questions for people if you know this place. And if you want to write a review or add a photo, you can. But there, own this business? Apparently, whoever owns it has never gone in and said, I own this business. Let me be in control of this. So whoever owns this, and it's the same for any one of your businesses that are here in town, you need to do that, and it's free. What happens is you say, yes, I own this business. They will actually send you a snail mail card so to verify that it's actually you and not a competitor or somebody else claiming you own the business. But for a lot of your businesses, and this one was fine, but what we do is as visitors, the first thing we do is we go to reviews. And we will do it on Google and we will do it on TripAdvisor, the 2 most important review websites. And there we can see that 35 people gave it 5 stars, 49% gave it 4 stars, so we know it's good. There was one person, a 1% gave it a 1 star. They had a bad experience. And by the way, you can see it gets 4 out of 5 stars there, but they even have TripAdvisor reviews on Google. And so one thing that's really important that I did not see in Port McNeill is when somebody has a bad experience, the ownership or management never bothered to respond. That says 2 things. You either don't care what people think, or you're just not aware of how important this is. TripAdvisor and Google are the 2 most visited websites when it comes to travel in the world. And so right here, somebody said, I called to book a hotel for a family vacation. Our son loves swimming and was told the pool was for 19-plus-year-olds. Now, is anybody from the Black Bear? No? Nobody here from the Black Bear? Okay, because I don't think that's true. But they didn't bother to respond. Or how about this one? As someone who works on the road, my connection to life back home is of utmost importance to me. This means being able to load a web page to email, Facebook, and chat with my family and friends. When your hotel advertises free Wi-Fi, your customers expect you to deliver. When you give them enough bandwidth, when you cannot give them enough bandwidth to load a single page, simply saying there's nothing we can do about it, it's generally not an advisable stance to take. No call to IT, not the slightest attempt to resolve my issue, blah, 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 blah. And so they gave him 1 star. Well, you know what? This was in 2015. We stayed at the Black Bear Resort and we had great fast internet the whole time. But when a property won't respond and say, by the way, this was 5 years ago, March 2015, exactly 5 years ago, and say, just so you know, over the last 5 years, we now have broadband here at the hotel. We've had other guests that say it's very fast and we're really sorry you had a bad experience. And I went to many of your restaurants and stuff. Nobody, in Port McNeill, people just don't seem to respond. And I don't understand that. So it's something you could do if you want to increase your business. You need to tell people. Those, by the way, were the only 2 bad reviews. But you know what people do? They read the bad ones. They don't read the good ones. And so that's how important that is. And it's the same thing with restaurants. Now, I'm not sure even how you pronounce it. That doesn't exist, does it? It does? Where is it? I never could find it. Okay, we're going to get into that too, because that's a real problem. But it says closed now, so I just assumed it's permanently closed. I couldn't even find a sign for it. I could not find where it is or anything. But we do look at these. And by the way, we ate this one, we ate here, we ate here, we ate at all these because they were highly rated by consumers. That's how important TripAdvisor is. And so that is why it's so important to respond. So we did eat at Archipelagos, 4.5 stars. It had good photography, which is great. And then, these are the kind of things we do. When we use Google and stuff, by the way, a lot of people coming up here, particularly visitors, aren't even looking for Port McNeill. They're looking for North Vancouver Island. And so this is what they'll do, Northern Vancouver Island, and they'll go, there's Vancouver Island road trips, tourism Vancouver Island North, and that is the one we clicked on right there when we were planning our trip. And I got to tell you, this is one of the best tourism websites I have ever seen. It is really, really well done. I actually like it, and I hate to say this, I like this better than the ones I've seen in Vancouver, the ones I've seen in Whistler, the ones I've even seen in Victoria. It's really well done. And I thought it does really great. It's what we call visual first, which means whatever your screen is, it fills the whole screen. It's got getting here, air travel, driving, car rental. This website is more than just fluff. It actually has helpful information. That word helpful is critical. And so they do a really great job. And then if you're looking for certain communities, it's got that too. So another suggestions would be, I would add, it says, 500 kilometers, 390 kilometers, 4.5 hours. I'm really glad it tells you the driving times. I would add miles to it. Number one, couple of things, is number one, the Seattle area is the 12th largest metropolitan area in the United States, and Americans spend nearly twice as much as Canadians. Plus, heck, we're getting a heck of a deal right now. I can't remember what the exchange rate is, but it's upwards of 30%. So I would do that. But that was about my only critique for it. And when you go into the website, it's got where do you want to stay? Cabins, campgrounds, RVs, B&Bs. It is really well done. But then what we did is we also downloaded the Explorer Guide, the Vancouver North Explorer Guide, which I have right here. And I would probably, one of the things I really noticed is if we come there in March, is anything going to be open? And for the most part, most things were, but if you want to be in the tourism game, you need to think about 8 months. I would love to see this. By the way, this is a great guide, very photographic. It's got lots of good information. But I would really like to see this. Pick your season, pick your passion. So if somebody picks the winter months, you have a page that talks about what to expect for road conditions, where to get road conditions because you're coming through the mountains, weather and travel, what to bring, what to wear, and you're coming in winter. These are the places that will be open. These are the places that will be closed. These are the kinds of activities you'll find here. And then do that for 4. You could even do it doesn't have to be glued into winter. You could do the holidays. From like Thanksgiving in October through Christmas. You could do the holiday season through the new year. Then you could do the winter months or winter solstice. And then you could do spring fling. Then you could do the summer season and fall color. You could have 5 seasons if you want. But I really, really think that you need to be, you know what? We're here this week in March. Monday was a beautiful day. Tuesday it was horrible. Wednesday it was like every half hour it was different. And some local said, if you don't like the weather, wait 5 minutes. But what happened is, we're here in March, mud season. We're kind of in between winter and spring, and you know what? We had a great time. And there was enough open. I wish some of these other ones would be open, but I really believe that if you want to be a tourism destination, which by the way is a diversification. We're not running away from timber, mining, fishing, any of your other natural based resources, but wouldn't it be great to add this element? Because remember, even if somebody's coming to live here and they're working the timber or lumber industry or they work in mining, guess what? If you want your families to come with them, quality of life, tourism, all of that plays a role. And they're here year round, not for 2 months when everything's open. And so I really would love to see this identified by seasons, because first of all, it says we're open year round. And I think that would be really great if you could do that. By the way, this was the only brochure we got before we came here. And we downloaded it and printed it out. And then we got here, we got a real one. But one thing that's really important to point out is when people travel somewhere, before they leave, they only use brochures and print materials 1/3 of the time, 32%. You know what's number one is the internet. Number two is friends and family. Number three is word of mouth. Number four is social media. Or number four is brochures. Number three is word of mouth, social media. But once we arrive, brochures are number one, even over the internet. So once I arrive, I'm in Port McNeill, give me some stuff. I'm ready now. We're at a restaurant, we're in a hotel, I'm ready. Come on, give me what you got so I could read something. And so one of the things we picked up when we were here was this. And the North Island Gazette did an amazing job with this. This little trail guide is a gem. Because what's so cool about it, it tells you whether it's an easy hike, a moderate hike. It even has drives in here, difficult. And it tells you how to get there, what you'll see, photos, everything. This little thing is fantastic. And so I think the Gazette, they're in Port Hardy, right? Does a great job with this. I just thought it was really good. So that's one thing. Now, we didn't do a lot of hiking because we're here to work, but otherwise we probably would have, because I think this is a good enough guide that once we're here, we'd say, we got to come back and do some of these. It's an invitation to come back again and spend more money. And so that was great. And when we do this, even if I type in Port McNeill, even the town can take and own this page. So the town can go in there. So now we typed in Port McNeill, town of, we went right to the town's website, and of course it says right there that Port McNeill is the best place on earth. Well, now hopefully that's not an apology. Because I thought, whoa, now I guess we are really pretty highfalutin, huh? But, you know what my first thing was? I say, well, remember when you say we're the best place on earth, you're putting a pretty high standard when we get here. Is it really going to be the best place on earth? However, the way I took it is, I'm so glad that people have a ton of community pride. Because a lot of us think where we live is the best place on earth. So I didn't see that as an exception. But I just want you to be careful that you remember you're putting a big promise out there. And so, but overall, one of the things is, first of all, I was right there. I went, oh boy, that's going to ruin everything. But then I saw welcome bid opportunity, and I saw that, and it was okay. I didn't have any problem with the town, and Mayor, you said the town is, you're redoing the website, which is fine. But I didn't see it as a negative. It says, come and visit, you'll want to stay. Welcome to our forest-friendly community. I thought that was all great. It's a great way. I was so glad I didn't just jump right into municipality stuff. It actually had a little comment about what we think of our community. I thought it was awesome. And as you scroll down, it does have tourism. I clicked on it. We're looking for volunteers. It says visit the harbor office, see the world's largest burrow, view the revival of humpback whales video. It had some good uses there. It would have been nice if it had more useful stuff for us staying in Port McNeill, but still, we didn't see it as a negative at all. Now, there's one thing I want you to do. We went in and we found 4 videos that were better than everything other than the North Vancouver website, Vancouver Island website. And we found these by happenstance. This is a gal, her name is Audrey, and her husband, his name is Samuel. Samuel and Audrey. And they actually did three videos about their visit to Port McNeill, Sointula, if I'm pronouncing it right. I've heard every way, okay? And then Alert Bay. And they did it like a 15-minute video on each. You need to watch them. Because remember, they're coming in and they offered helpful information. Like they told us, Alert Bay, I wouldn't drive over there, just walk on the ferry if the weather's good. And they told us about going over to Malcolm Island and what you would see and where to go. And so I would actually embed these on your website, which you can do. So, and I'm going to show you that. Because this video is the future. Video is where it's at. By the way, this video right here is seen nearly 29,000 times. That's a pretty good sales pitch for you. And so I went over to their YouTube channel, Samuel and Audrey, and I actually typed in, I would type in Vancouver Island, because most of it, they did Victoria and everything, but I went Vancouver, but here's wildlife encouraged. Here's, look at this, Port McNeill, Telegraph Cove, Port Hardy, Port McNeill, and Telegraph Cove. British Columbia starts now. And so I clicked on this one. I said, okay, we want that one to be on your website. So if you click on it right here, you can go to YouTube. And this one here's when they came up this way. And I actually have three of them. But here's one they did just on Sointula, visiting a Finnish town, former utopia on Malcolm Island. So they did this. But if you go right down, where did it go? If you go down, you can actually embed this video on your website. And they can allow it or not allow it, and they allow it. So you can take this video, because it's still, number one, you'll increase their viewership. That's how they get paid. You'll increase their viewership, number one. Number two, you're expanding their audience. Number three, you're using their materials to market yourselves, and they had nothing negative to say about any of your communities. And it's a great way to do it. And you just would click down in here under share, and the little box would come up that tell you, do you want to embed it in your website? And they allow it. But another one that I noticed, when we came into town, we saw that gateway community to the Broughton Archipelago. Is it Broughton or Broughton? Broughton? To the Broughton Archipelago. Now, we didn't really know about that. We saw a little bit of it in the guide and on the website, but we weren't sure why we would go there, how we would go there, or whatever. And by the way, I would not use the word gateway. A gateway is something you pass through to go somewhere else. You need to be the hub, the base camp. You need to be a place where we spend the night, and then we do day trips out to these places. And I'll get more into that. But, so I thought, okay, I want to find a video about the Broughton Archipelago or the islands. And there was this one. And it's Cruising Maya. That's the name of their sailboat. And this couple was in the Broughtons, and they caught prawns, crabs, fish. They saw dolphins swimming right next to their boat, orcas, humpbacks, eagles. I mean, they did their little 14-minute video made me want to go there. And you could also embed that on your website. And you'd be covering your two islands. You'd be covering Port McNeill. You'd be covering the islands there. And I think it would just be fantastic. Living off the sea in British Columbia's Broughton Islands. Because I really didn't know anything about them. I mean, obviously grew up in the Gulf Islands and the Queen Charlotte Islands. And I mean, we know of all those places. But I would do the three from Audrey and Samuel and this one. Because all four of them said, I want to go to Port McNeill, and it's going to be where I'm going to stay, and then I will do day trips out. When it comes to marketing, and I'll go through this pretty quickly, this is how you, as a business or as a community, should divide up your marketing dollars. And the first thing is digital marketing, about 45%, and then public relations and influencer, which is mostly online. This means like 65% of your budget should be digital. 65% should be digital. When it comes to printed materials, brochures, about 20%. Traditional advertising, magazines should be about 10%. And guess what? That's to drive people to the website, which better be good enough to close the sale. And then outdoor, like outdoor means billboards, trade shows, all that. It's a general rule of thumb, but sometimes we tend to do more. We buy ads and put them in lots of magazines, and no offense, I think it's good as long as it will help close the sale and take you to these two things. That rules the nest. And when it comes to digital marketing, that includes your website. All websites should be updated every 2 weeks. Even if you're a small business, should be updated just with something. It could even be an Instagram feed down at the bottom or a Facebook feed, just so there's new content on your website. And then search engine optimization. Guess what? 85% of all people never go past the first page of search results. Do you? And then pay-per-click marketing. If you have to pay your way to get on that first page, and then any e-newsletters, online advertising you might do. If you do blogs or video blogs, vlogs, or anything that has to do with content is included in that. Digital brochures, like we downloaded the North Vancouver Island guide, the Vancouver Island North guide. We downloaded that. It was great. I could view it online. I could download it. And then when we got here, we picked up the hard copy. I mean, all the things, apps. And by the way, you know what? I saw on your plans an app. I put apps at the very bottom of the list. I mean, how many of you have ever gone somewhere because of their app? No hands went up, by the way. It is something that's handy once we get here, but it's not really going to bring people here. So based on all this research, we thought, okay, here's what we're going to do. On Monday, we're going to check out Port Hardy because we've got to see what the competition is like. If the weather is nice, based on that video from Audrey and Samuel, we want to walk on the ferry to Alert Bay. Check out Telegraph Cove. We just got to check it out because we saw so much about it. Then on Tuesday, we thought, you know, because we did get here on Sunday, by the way, but that was kind of getting our feet wet, having dinner, kind of just driving around. And then Tuesday, we thought we'd take the ferry over to Sointula. And then maybe Wednesday and Thursday, we would really dig into Port McNeill. And of course, we're going to start every morning in Port McNeill, the end of every day in Port McNeill. And so this was kind of our initial plan. Now, when we came into Port McNeill, we did manage to get the Port McNeill brochure. However, like being the world's best community, the clear blue skies is a little bit, iffy. I mean, you never forget that song from the 60s, the bluest skies you'll ever see here in Seattle. It's like, yeah, right. But, lush forests, ocean breaches, fishing, wildlife. The one challenge we had with this brochure is that there was nothing useful in it. It didn't have any helpful information. And so, now once again, this is not a criticism. I don't want somebody to say, well, so-and-so put together this brochure. They sure did a lousy job. This is not about what they did because this is better than no brochures. What I'm trying to do is say, what could we do that would make it better? And I've got the brochure you're going to create. Okay? I'm going to tell you. So anyway, this is, the heart of your North Island adventure beats here, adventure, endless possibilities. But you know what? If you just change this to Port Hardy, all of it would still ring true. Or to Telegraph Cove, or maybe in Port Alice, or Cole Harbor. I mean, a lot of this could happen anywhere in the north. So that is one thing. And what we've heard, it did have useful information on the back telling you about the drive times to get here. So that was helpful. But generally speaking, I thought it was nice, but it didn't really, it was something we looked at once and we just set it aside. Okay? This is what I want you to do. I want you to create a brochure that says the very best of North Vancouver Island. Fantastic day, and this is your subtitle. Fantastic day trips and must-do activities from Port McNeill. Because most people are not looking for Port McNeill, they're looking for North Vancouver Island. So that right there will get you really high on search engine results. But I want you to put together, this is always promote your best ofs. So this one here is Bracebridge, Ontario. It's this little brochure I'm holding in my hand. Now they promoted the one I threw on the floor. this is, they promoted their top restaurants, I don't want you to promote top restaurants and eateries and retail shops. I want you to promote the best activities. And we've been here, and I'm going to help you even identify the ones we saw. But doing this kind of a brochure is really helpful. Always promote your best ofs. People love lists, the top 3 kayaking adventures in North Vancouver Island, the top 3 must-do cultural attractions. People love numbered things. But when it comes to this Port McNeill brand, so that's the brochure, and I'm going to walk you through it. But I thought, what should Port McNeill be known for? And I really thought you should be the base camp for the North Island experience, or the North Island adventure, whatever you want to call it. And the reason, now, somebody might say, but that's so timber related. The reason I like base camp is because it's where we spend the night. Overnight visitors spend 3 times more than day visitors. If you can get people to spend the night here, you're going to get breakfast, you're going to get dinner. And then we'll go out during the day, and that's okay. Because you could easily send them to Port Alice, Port Hardy, Fort Rupert, Sointula, Alert Bay, Telegraph Cove, even out to the Broughtons. I mean, why not? Why not be that base camp? This is where you set up camp, and then you head out. And by the way, we like base camp because that works with campers, it works with RVers, it works with people with travel trailers, it works with people in hotels, B&Bs, Airbnbs, Verbo, you name it, it works. And by the way, day trips should always be within a 45-minute drive one way. So I didn't go clear out here to Cape Scott. How long a drive is that? Along to sea. And so I thought, if we're going to go all the way out there, well, Brian and I are going to go out there early in the morning and then come back at the end of the day. It's too long of a drive. So I tried to do things that are, and I could have put maybe Cole Harbour. I might have pushed on a couple of these. But, so we thought, if you could be that hub, that base camp, don't be a gateway. Don't be a gateway. You want to be the place. And if you send them to Port Hardy, we don't mind sharing. I'm sure there's some competition when it comes to sports and things. But you know what? If you can nail that down, because you're kind of in the center about Telegraph Cove and Port Hardy. So Sunday, we're along the highway, and we do see lots of great signs like Port Alice, gateway to the Wild West Coast. And one thing that really got us was a beautiful scenic drive awaits. If we would have been here as leisure visitors, we did not go to Port Alice because we didn't have time. Remember, we're here for Port McNeill. But if we would have had time, I would have done it based on that one line. A beautiful scenic drive awaits. All of a sudden, that alone makes it, we should go down there, even though it's a town of 660 people or whatever it is, it would be worth it. So do they deliver on this promise? They do. See, so that might be one of those best ofs. But we saw that. We thought that was really great. And we thought, really nice sign, by the way. And then one thing I would love to see you do, and this would go to all your surrounding communities too, is I want you to add a hashtag to these signs. Just like, there you go, I did it for you. Now you need to go do the real one. And it doesn't have to be amazing Port McNeill. It could just be hashtag Port McNeill, although I always like to add another superlative there. But I think it's really important for you when you know what? I got to tell you this. Facebook is where we talk to our friends and family, the locals. Instagram is where we share with the world. And when we come into Port McNeill, we don't know whether to do, so what happens is we go into Instagram, we just make up hashtags. And so what happens is Port McNeill's all over the place. There might be somebody that did at Port McNeill, another one did hashtag Port McNeill, another one might did hashtag whale watching Port McNeill, another one might do, and you got a gazillion hashtags. Wouldn't it be great if you did this and come up with something like that, amazing Port McNeill, or whatever. I always add one other word in there and then put it on your sign so that when people get here, number one, they'll take a picture of that gateway so they can remember the hashtag. And then they will post it. Now all of a sudden you have all these people posting the same Instagram account, the same Facebook account, the same Twitter, you name it. Share your experience, share your adventure. I think that would be fantastic. And not that expensive to do. As a matter of fact, I did put, share your experience right there. We do have the gateway community to Broughton Islands, or the Broughton Archipelago. But in this case, like this one here, number one, you got to start working on some of the letters are starting to. Now remember, you're the best place on earth, which means you got to always live up to that promise. But the heart of your true earth life, you know what? No offense, but the heart of, I've probably seen that thousands of times everywhere. It doesn't really mean anything. And so no offense, but I would rather your base camp for the North Island, your North Island adventure, which means this is where we set up camp. This is where we're going to stay. This is where we're going to go to the grocery store in the morning before we head out for the day, or where we're going to have coffee or tea, or where we're going to come back for dinner. And then all of these here, you can't read them unless you stop, get out of the car, and walk up to the sign. And so I would just make it really simplified. I would just put Port McNeill, your base camp for the North Island, your North Island adventure, first right, 1 minute drive. I probably wouldn't put that whole list there. You might add visitor information, which are already signs along the road that do tell you how to get there. Because right next to this one, Alert Bay gets a really good sign. This was easy to read. It only took a few seconds. Alert Bay, home of the killer whale, world's tallest totem pole, museum shops. I mean, they had less than half the words than you did, which means we could read it in a minute, less than a minute. And so but this is pretty tired. I noticed a lot of things in all your communities is that you put up signs, you do a lot of things, but then once you put them up, nobody really takes care of them. And I noticed that a lot. So, it's looking pretty tired and worn out. We also saw this one, Port McNeill. We saw another one of these across the street. And then we saw Alice Lake. And one of the things we saw some good information like this along the highway that's not in brochures or websites. Come on, you guys, get on the same page. And so one thing, Alice Lake Recreational Loop. Now, is that a driving loop? It is a driving loop? Is it really cool? You're sure quiet. It is pretty cool, okay. But it doesn't really, it just says take a day or two to explore everything in our local backcountry, but it doesn't tell me. How long does it take to drive that loop? 3.5 hours? 2.5? Okay, so roughly 2 or 3 hours. There was no useful information to tell me that. And this is the only place I could find anything about the recreational loop. And so it's like, why wasn't that in some of the websites? Why is that not there? And then, of course, there's the Broughtons, And then, by the way, there was lots of trash here. I would actually have volunteers. I don't know if you do trash pickup and stuff. I know it's mud season, but when we see that kind of stuff, that's your first impression. But even in Port McNeill, this is right, just as you're going up the hill on the right, there's the trail right there, which I think is fantastic. More great information, but once again, I'm getting the most information after I get here, and it's on a bunch of signs. Wouldn't it be great if that was in your Port McNeill brochure or even in the town's website when you redo the website? Because we saw lots of these. Here's one that talks about Cole Harbor. It talks about, where's that one? Vancouver Wild. Well, I can't even read that one from here. Telegraph Cove, on and on and on. So far in this brochure that I want you to create, the very best of North Vancouver Island, I think that Alice Lake Recreational Loop, I'm not sure, but according to you, it sounds like it'd be a pretty amazing thing that you should promote. So if it had one of these panels in there that talk about that loop, this is how you start going, well, there's another day, right? There's another day right there. And then kayaking, boating the Broughton Islands, I would absolutely put on there. You get guide services and everything. It's probably going to be more seasonal. So there's 2 so far we have. So this is all on just getting started like on Sunday. And so we did eat at Archipelago's Bistro on Sunday evening. We thanked them for being open on a Sunday. The food was good. It could use some paint, lots of weeds and stuff. But, it's one of the things is curb appeal with your retailers and your merchants is not very good in Port McNeill. And that's something you have to understand. We judge the book by the cover. We all travel. Have you ever said these words? That looks like a nice place to eat. We judge the book by the cover. But we did eat there. It was recommended to us. I don't know how long they've been open, but I hope they can replace the vinyl banner with a real sign. I think that'd be great. This whole little complex to us was ultra confusing. There's no pots, no benches. We couldn't figure out, okay, there's a bistro, there's a lobby, so there must be a hotel here. But the hotel really is all about beer and wine, because that's the biggest sign on the whole place is beer and wine. So it must be your beer drinker's heaven. Then down here we have a tour. So I'm not sure whether this is the beer and wine door or whether this is North Island Tours door. And it's just kind of mixed up. And the whole time we were here, until yesterday when I was putting all this together, I always thought it was the Datewood Inn. Doesn't the tree looks more like a T than an L? So I'm going on, is it Dalewood? Did they change the name? So, and then you have a reader board, but nobody ever uses it. We got the brown squigglies across there. I would, put open year round, or maybe it's not open year round. And I don't know where you buy the beer and wine. I mean, the whole thing was like, granted, I'm picking on them, but it's not just them. Because we're judging the book by the cover. We drove all the way around it, and it doesn't look bad. It's just the signs are all out of order, and you couldn't really tell what's what or where to go or what you're buying there. So that is how we ended up our Sunday evening. So Monday, we thought first thing we're going to do is we're going to head over to Port Hardy. So which we did. We drove over there. It's got a good gateway sign, live the adventure, which we could do anywhere. Too generic of a slogan for them, because we could do that. I mean, there's no place we can't live the adventure. Great gateway sign. Audrey and Samuel talked about the wind farms and the blade there, which I thought was actually pretty cool. You never realize how big they are until you're standing right in front of one. But that was good. It had a nice waterfront. They also have a clock tower like you do. I mean, theirs has stone on it, though. Just kidding you. Now, it did actually have a real downtown. That was one thing that's missing in Port McNeill. It actually had downtown. However, there was an outfitter there and a gallery, but the rest of it was not really visitor-oriented retail. It was like local accountants and attorneys and social services and everything. So, you know what? I thought they had some things that you don't have. But you know what? No offense to Port Hardy, I didn't think they had anything over Port McNeill. They have a great waterfront park. They have some of the great assets for you. And yeah, they got the ferry that goes right up to Alaska or wherever, or over to Prince Rupert or wherever it goes. So they do have some things there. But I thought if you're going to market Port Hardy, I would probably market, and we did not go to either one of these. Remember, if we would have had time, we probably would have. But I would say, okay, while you're here, if you're the base camp, we want you to go to Port Hardy and go visit the Salmon Stewardship Center or Port Hardy Museum. I don't know if they have other attractions. Those are the only ones we saw on TripAdvisor right off. But that's okay. So we went over there, looked at it, and then we thought, okay, it's beautiful. We're going to go to Alert Bay. It's Monday. No clue. So the first thing we did is we went down, we found this. We didn't realize we had to pay to park in order to walk on the ferry, which makes it almost worth taking your car over there because it's not that much cheaper when you add it all together. But we paid the $5 for a 24-hour pass, which I thought, can't we just pay $3 for like a 4-hour pass? Because maybe some people have their boats out and they park for 24 hours at a time. I don't know. But it was no big deal. The kiosk worked fine. It took credit cards. Not a big deal. And so we did that. But once again, I wish these signs were a little more decorative and not so, like I would put parking is enforced, right? Violators will be towed. It's like, so take that as a warning. I mean, at least it wasn't in big letters like that, and at least it wasn't red. But I just thought, please obtain a ticket. I thought everything was nice. I just thought the signs were a little bit in your face, too much. Remember, this is about hospitality. But we paid our $5. We found the kiosk. It was no big deal. We put it on the dash and no problems. And as we walked down the ferry, I'm not a big fan of chain link fences. You could do vinyl that looks like wrought iron now. You could do vinyl fencing. We'd like to see more decorative so that you're more welcoming, not so industrial. I know that's your base. But we love this, the little stream of dreams that have, I think, local kids or whatever put this all together. Excellent. When you do things like that little local art on the fence there, it would be nice if it was on the fence that was more decorative so you could photograph it better. But I thought it was really great because you know what it does? It creates a sense of loyalty to your community. And so I thought that was excellent. The ferry terminals, well-maintained, really nice. I mean, growing up on an island and using Washington State ferries all the time, I've always figured, why can't Washington State ferries be more like BC ferries? You probably hate BC ferries, but you know what? I mean, everybody that relies on ferries always struggles with the ferry system. But overall, I thought they were great. Really great, really easy. The ferry schedules was easy to find. It was easy to get information. The trip was just fantastic. But right here, the only brochure in this whole place, so here we are waiting for the ferry. There's a brochure holder there. The only brochure into it is Sointula. There's not one for Alert Bay. There's not one for Port McNeill. This is a great place for what we call 24/7 brochure distribution or information. I think the ferries will let you do it. We've seen it work over in other places in BC. And same with this other room right here. I mean, neither of these really had visitor information. So here's what we're talking about. Getting something like this that you see right there. Getting something like that little box you see right there. I think it'd be great to have one of these. And there's where you could put your Vancouver Island North guide. And there is where you could put the very best of the North Island, the brochure you're going to create now. And then maybe you put a BC provincial travel guide would go right there. But if you could make some of these and put them in different locations, your visitor information would be working around the clock. People don't just travel 8 to 5. And when you do your marketing, I think it's really important to include photographs of what the experience is like. So when we're going to take the ferry, I had no idea whether it was just an open top ferry. You've seen some of those. All it is like a barge. No seating or anything. So we didn't know what to expect. But if you show pictures like this, we know that it does have an upper cabin that spans the bridge and that does seat, many people. I think doing these, you don't have to show pictures of the views, but you need to show what we can expect when we get on a ferry. By the way, this is a great time for you to start promoting the new ferry we read online that you're going to get. It's going to hold nearly, you're going to go from 30 to 47 cars. It's a double-ender, so you don't have to back up all the time. I read that 20% of it's going to be operated on battery power. It's going to be all new technology. That's cool stuff you should be promoting. Even though it's not coming until May, I didn't see any information except when I started digging, doing this assessment. Because I think they're on the way, right? On the way from what, Romania or somewhere where they're being built? Oh, they're in Victoria now. Awesome. I think that's really cool that you're getting that. And so, the more helpful you are with all your photography, the easier it's going to be for people to come and spend money. And even show, here's the dock over on Alert Bay, and even when you get off, it's got the little passageway right up there, and there are public washrooms right there. These are the things that are helpful. So now we're on Alert Bay, and by the way, I think it was really important for us to secret shop Alert Bay, which we did. You're going to see it, because you know what? I think it's Port McNeill's greatest tourism asset. And so this is a nice welcome sign. but it's starting to you can see a lot of moss starting to grow on there. And what happens again is we start to see things like these that when they're put up, they're probably incredibly beautiful and everything, and then nobody just takes care of them. We just let them sit there. And in this kind of weather, these things need to be freshened up like every year, every other year. We'd love to see that. Because you know what? First impressions are lasting impressions. When we get off the ferry, the first things we see is how we judge Alert Bay, fair or not. And when we see things like this, I mean, most of these were falling down. I mean, it's all folded over. A lot of these were faded. You couldn't even read. A lot of them were way out of date, like years. Come on, doesn't anybody care? And that's the impression you get. I know people care, but that's the impression. You know what? If it was me, I'd take the whole display down if there's going to be nobody to maintain it. Love the boardwalks. Excellent in Alert Bay. I think showing this so people see that it's, for the most part, pedestrian friendly. The biggest mistake we found once we got there was we went on a Monday. And we couldn't find a place for people, a place to eat. I mean, we thought, oh my gosh. So here we are now, and nobody told us, and we couldn't read it. We didn't read it anywhere. And so now we're here, and we're going, where do we eat? There's little galleries. I mean, look at this. Here's another statistic. The number one activity of visitors in the world is shopping, dining, and entertainment in a pedestrian-friendly setting. So they have a pedestrian-friendly setting, and this is where 80% of the non-lodging spending takes place. Why do you think Disney put downtown Disney outside each of its parks? To get that 80%. So now I'm over there on a Monday, and I cannot spend that 80%. Neither one of us, we couldn't spend that money. I mean, little place like this says Friday and Saturday from 11:30 to 3:30. Really? They're only open like 8 hours a week? I mean, and if it's more, maybe it's open more during the summer months, then I would put on the windows that between May 1st and October 1st, or whatever your summer season is, say during this period we're open 5 days a week or whatever it is. But right now, it's like Friday and Saturday for 4 hours a day. It's like, it was the only gallery there. And we were looking at things in the window going, man, we're ready to spend. We finally did find we did find Pass and Time Restaurant, and our first impression was, it's too bad it went out of business. Which is not true. However, because this sign, it's so faded and everything, and the entrance to the restaurant is around the side, and then we finally did make it around the side. I mean, but there was lots of weeds growing up there. It just looks really tired. All the curtains are shut. And so we finally saw open Tuesday through Saturday, closed Sunday and Monday. And of course, we were there on Monday. But why is this there? It already says when you'll be open. At first, we only saw this one. We didn't even see that one. I hate closed signs. It just means go away. And so just get rid of the closed sign. It says you're open Tuesday through Saturday. It would be good if we knew the hours you were open. And by the way, here it is. 70% of first-time sales comes from curb appeal. We had a hard time finding any place that looked like a nice place to eat anywhere in the North Island. This whole area. So we went over here. We thought, this looks nice. It looks fairly new and everything. And nothing. No hours, nothing. We don't even know if this place does anybody know, is this place still operating? It does? Yeah. Is it just closed on Mondays? There's no signs that say when or if it's ever open. Nothing that invites us back. And so I thought, boy, some pots there, something. It looks like a fairly new place. I mean, the signs look good, but it's just locked up. We even tried the doors. Let us in. No, we didn't do that. We did try the doors because there was no hours. And even visitor information was closed on Monday. And that's probably because the library's right there, I think, you know. But once again, wouldn't it be great if you had brochure distribution right there? Some information. And then we finally did find the Bayside Grill that was open. We thanked them for being open on a Monday. And they were great, East Indian couple there. I mean, it was nice. The food was good, and it was fine. It's, you know, it's not, I wouldn't consider it world class, but it was fine. It's Alert Bay. This is what you get, and it was great. So we were really glad they were open. This was also open, but the challenge is it's hard to read these window signs, and there's no sign up there. But it looked like there's people in there. I think it's a deli to the mercantile, the grocery store, whatever it is. I'm not too sure. But once again, you have buildings with no signs and stuff, and it's just like, what? I don't get it. I don't understand why it's not that difficult or that expensive to pull people into your doors when we're there. And so be easily fixed with some curb appeal, anything. Even this, can you imagine trying to go up and look at that billboard? I should have had Jane try to do that, try to shinny up this pole, which is about this tall, and then hang onto the fence so you could read the sign. I mean, why is it there? That's not useful for anybody. So for me, I would say, why don't we take that down, move it across the street where it's actually good for humans? So these are those little things that's just like, sheesh, come on, you guys. You know, I thought blade signs. You know what blade signs are? They're perpendicular. Can you tell me what's in any of those shops on the right? Or even down the left, can you tell me what's in any of those shops? I mean, I can kind of see this down here. This is the place where there's no sign. I think that's the deli to the general store. But these are blade signs. They're not that expensive to do. And by the way, there you go. That's in Leavenworth, Washington, if any of you have ever been there. But you know some chocolate, collectibles, trains, you know instantly what they're about. Heck, this is over in Banff. Those are all blade signs. This is in Canmore, Alberta. All those are blade signs. Kitchen Boutique, you see them right there. This is in Lethbridge, Alberta, and these are built to 100 mile an hour, not kilometers, 100 mile an hour wind loads. So you can't say, well, we can't do blade signs because we get heavy winds. If they do it in Lethbridge, you could do it anywhere. And those signs right there, they were just putting them up when I was there. And you could take this part out, and they were just going to put those in there. Invite us in. And I just think that you're not getting, even if you want to be in tourism, you're just not getting the spending you should because of some easy fixes. We love the waterfront boardwalks on Alert Bay. I mean, it was just such a stunning setting. It was amazing. This is even amazing right here, even this. Now, one thing the Namgus burial grounds right there, is we've got this here. It says, please respect the burial grounds to be viewed from the street only, which is fine. I would make them more decorative, but there was no information about this there. There should be an interpretive sign that tells you that when they fall, and I may have this wrong, but when they fall, we leave them there. That means that the spirits are released from this place when they fall. So when a wing falls off of one of them or something, that's why they're there. It's not that we're going to stand back up and paint them. That's just the way it works. And I think doing that would give us a lot more respect. But I thought it was amazing. As a matter of fact, I would add it to your list of must-dos while you're in Port McNeill, because it is really a cool thing. And if you put interpretive signs there, it would be fantastic. And then we went over to see what we thought was going to be the greatest thing in the whole area, and that was the Umista Cultural Center, and it's closed on Mondays. And my whole thing was, argh, yeah! You know? And so it would be great if there was interpretive signs telling us the stories of each of these. The great totem poles are fantastic. You know, and even, you know, I'm not sure what this means, just telling the stories of these. So if we're there and it's closed, you're still getting us connected. And these, the Awakwas, is that how you pronounce that? Anybody know? I think they're called Awakwas. These are fantastic. And I think those all alone, I mean, it tells you the story of every single one of them. And there's 5 of them, and those alone are worth a trip to Alert Bay. Because they are really, really cool. And you have to, particularly for you, First Nations is every day, it's part of life and everything. But when people come from Europe, Native Americans, First Nations people are incredibly unique to Canada, to the United States. And I think that they belong on this list. They're really cool. Even things like this church I thought was just beautiful and it was well maintained. But I just thought everywhere you go, like even this over here, you know, in front of somebody's house, I thought was just awesome. But here's the thing. Our overall impression of Alert Bay was that it's a sad, declining town. May not be the case, but we did read in interpretive signs that there used to be like 1,000 fishing boats until we fished out the natural resource. And since then, you know, I mean, there's no question this is turning to a tourism-based economy over here in Alert Bay. But when we see a lot of this, you just go, this is really sad to see this town just falling down. I mean, are any of these in business ever? Anybody know? They are? There was not one single sign that says we're open from May 1st or June 1st. Or there was nothing. We just assumed that this entire strip is gone forever. No reason to come back. That's a crying shame. You know, this here talks about the cannery and the shipping and the fishing and everything. But when you start seeing a lot of, you know, people are very environmentally aware now. When we see, and this wasn't the only place, we saw like 10 or 15 of these little boats just half sunk. Some of them even have outboards on them just down in the muck. And it was just like, what happened here? Come on, Alert Bay, you can do this. And so, as we go through this, I mean, even this, our amazing journey with Anthony Johnson, you know, amazing race winners. I mean, I don't know what this building even is. I don't know if it's a community hall, if it's a church, what it is. And I just thought, man, could we take the proceeds from people and paint it? I just want them to spruce it up a little bit so it looks like we care about our community. And so these are just first impressions. You know, and quite frankly, I know that's like the economic development office over there. Go, why is that visitor information? I just thought, you know, that economic development, I think that's what that is. Could be anywhere. And I kept going, man, when we get off the ferry, wouldn't it be great to have visitor information right there, over there? You know, because it's right there at the docks. It's your gateway into the community. But even inside across the street there's no visitor information in here either. So this is brochure distribution, talking about Port McNeill or Telegraph Cove or even Alert Bay. You know, brochure for the Umista Cultural Center. These we thought were great. Are those pretty new? Yeah, those are great. It's great. They're easy to read as you're driving by or walking by. You know when the next ferry is. I thought they were excellent. So now, Alert Bay. Here's what they said in that video that I didn't show it to you. It's 15 minutes long. They talked about the ferry ride. They talked about the Namgus burial ground. They talked about whale watching tours. I saw nothing in Alert Bay about whale watching tours. I walked the boardwalk, which we did. It's a walkable trip, which we agreed. Looking at the boats in the harbor, which we did. The Umista Cultural Center, they forgot to tell us. They told us what it means, but they forgot to tell us that all these places were closed on Mondays. And they had the largest totem pole in the world. We never found it. And they do cultural dances in July, August at the big house. We don't know where the big house is. So we left Alert Bay. We went to Telegraph Cove. And of course we saw this, and we saw only 20 minutes away and went, oh, okay, we'll go down there. We drove all the way down there, and we told that they don't even open, nothing opens there till May 1st. Is that true? It is, okay. Because first of all, it's really, really cute. But I thought May 1st, and I'm going to give you another statistic because you're losing huge spenders. The biggest tourism spenders travel, their peak months are April, May, September, and October, and you're closed. I think it's a shame. You need to stretch your seasons. The days of summer being the weekend in May and Labor Day, those days are gone. I mean, you got to stretch your season. Now, this hotel looked like it was actually open, but there were people there. And so we thought it was really cute, but we didn't walk all the way around it or anything. And they could use 24/7 visitor information. Remember, you're still the hub. You're still the base camp. And like all these, I don't know if they ran them or if these belong to guide services, but we heard that Telegraph Cove is incredibly a great place for kayaking, particularly into the Broughtons and going there. And so, by the way, the fastest growing tourism trend is RVs and trailering in the US and Canada. Fastest growing trend. And that brings us to this statistic. The average age of a person buying an RV or a trailer is 45. It's not the 60-plus crowd. It is huge. And look at their months for travel, April through October. I mean, why are you guys open in April? I mean, I don't understand that. So this is, you know what? When you can stretch your tourism season to 8 months, you will create year-round jobs. Otherwise, they're just going to be seasonal jobs. And then people, if you come, earn money, and they leave, or they go back to school or whatever, you're missing a huge point, because look at what you got to offer. It's world class. By the way, every RV park in this whole area should be on Campendium. Campendium is like TripAdvisor for campers. It is where everybody rates them. And look at, these are all the ones. This is Port Alice, Port McNeill, no photos, no reviews, nothing. And all these RV parks should be putting them on there. It's free. They're listed, but there's no information whatsoever. And it's the biggest segment, fastest growing segment in tourism. I mean, if you go down south, and this is Vancouver, I did Vancouver, Loveland Bay, and Campbell River, Harriet Bay, and at least some of these have one review, that at least they have photos and everything. But the further north you go, it's just like, we're the Wild West and we don't have anything. Good luck. You know? And by the way, while we were at Telegraph Cove, we thought, okay, let's go check out the campground. And I'm telling you, one person that would try to drive through that with an RV or a trailer is going to go, no thanks. I mean, that is just right there. It's just like, and maybe between now and May 1st, they're going to scrape that off. But there was nothing anywhere that said when they were open, Telegraph Cove. We heard May 1st because the person working the front desk at where we're staying, that's what she told us. And then, by the way, these types of signs, there's not a sign there that's doing any favors for any of those businesses. I mean, this right here, what is this one here? It says, where is it right here? What is it? Sun Seahorse Cafe and Gallery. It looks like, I don't even know if they still exist, but the sign looks like it's been there for 40 years. Telegraph Cove Resorts looks old. I mean, some of the signs, it just makes it look like a second-class destination. So, when we got back Monday night, we did eat at Sportsman Steakhouse, and it has the most upscale interior. It was nice views of the waterfront. It has okay curb appeal. At least they had some greenery there, which we thought was great. And so that included our Monday. So on Tuesday, we got up and we thought, okay, well, let's do some checking out. So we started taking a little closer look at Port McNeill. And one thing that's really interesting is when you come down the hill, this is what you see, and it looks like the end of the world is right there at Clothing Inn. There's no view to the waterfront. There's no downtown. There's no real sense of place. And so as we get closer, we're just like, okay, where is everything? It's just like hodgepodge buildings everywhere with tons of asphalt and gravel. And even the signs are like this. I can see there's a dump station or RV park, must be that way. And then there's another sign there that says visitor information is that way, but none of the signs coordinate or anything. They're just like, oh, let's put up a sign here, let's put up a sign here, let's add another sign over there. And then when you pull up to the intersection, or then when you turn right, we see this one here in front of the close-in that says tsunami route back that way. The museum is that way. The Broughton Strait, I mean, we got just a hodgepodge mess. Now, if I turn right and I go up to the next intersection, these signs over here need to be on that side of the street. Because remember, signs should always be on the right-hand side. So it needs to be over there. And so even those are like, okay, why don't we put this together? You need a wayfinding system. And it only needs to be like half a dozen signs. Where would I find public washrooms? Where would I find the marine and visitor information? We can get there eventually, but we have to follow their signs or a different set of signs. All of these things should be on your signs. You only need like half a dozen of them. This is not expensive to do. But you need to help us find things easy, because the easier it is for us, the more likely we are to stay here, spend money, and you solidify your place as the greatest place on earth. And so wayfinding includes many signage, all those things I just listed, attractions like the largest burrow, boat launches, public access point, trail markers, those kinds of things, visitor information kiosks, where are they? They can be simple, fairly simple. You never put more than 5 items on one sign. So you might have 2 or 3 coming down the hill, and then once you go to the right or the left there. But these are all samples of wayfinding signs. This sign here was like $750 US, so 2,000 Canadian. Just kidding. Just kidding. But those are about $750. It's on an existing power pole. And this town of Appleton, Wisconsin, put these in and increased their retail sales surge by 18%. Help us. Because it's an investment. It plays a role in your branding efforts. You can make them look like whatever your logo is, whatever Port McNeill is about. It's a major component in your marketing. It reinforces a positive experience, increases spending, and educates your visitors and locals about what you got and how to find it. And it builds community pride, and it's as much a science as an art. Pincher Creek, Alberta went out and decided we're going to do our own signs, and they're all way too small. So it is as much a science as it is an art. We've even seen communities use pole banners temporarily for gateway signs. For wayfinding signs. And it will increase sales surge between 14 and 28%. Just doing 6 signs. So there you go. And by the way, navigation systems are not a substitute, because you know what? Siri has no idea where the world's largest burrow is. And by the way, we use navigation systems to type in things we already know exist. You're going to put things on the sign we didn't know existed until we saw it on the sign. So in the Destination Development Association library, we do have a video that tells you how to do this, so I'm not going to go into it. But while we're here, we are trying to find this world's largest burrow. We did find great trails like this. This is right up, going up the hill. Is this a pretty new trail? Because we saw it along the highway. Pretty cool, really nice. And I don't know what it's called. I think it's a community trail or something. I don't know what it is on the highway. But it might be a great asset. I'm not too sure. We did see it here, and it looks fabulous. And I don't know whether it's snowmobiling in the winter or if it's just walking. Is it just walking and biking maybe? Perfect. Don't get the snow. You're on coastal. I get it. Oh, good. You're already doing science. See, you've just been validated. But now, we're looking for the world's largest burrow. We saw in one of the videos that it was in or near an industrial park. So we were going down the highway and we saw an industrial park. There it is. We turned in there and it was the scariest experience we've ever had in all of Canada. I went, oh my God, if this is Port McNeill's industrial park, what am I going to tell them on Friday? Now, if this is private, there's not much you can do about it. But I'm telling you, I swear I could hear banjo music if anybody gets the drift. If that has any public ownership, I'd take down those signs. Because, it just was not very friendly. And we could find no burl there. Thank goodness. Because Jane locked the car doors. Now, I shouldn't make light of it because there are people who actually live in their stuff. But I got to tell you, first impressions are lasting impressions. As far as we know to this point, that's Fort McNeill's industrial park. So we did go across the highway to the airport thinking, well, maybe this is kind of industrial. And the airport looked great. I mean, this over here I think this is a helicopter outfit, was fantastic. I even thought, man, I want an apartment in that place. It looks great, looks very, very nice. We did get the kick out of the fact that we're at an airport and we've got a nice, large boat there. And I kept thinking, boy, if we tried to tow that boat behind this plane, that's going to be kind of a problem. So we thought, okay, let's give up on this for now. Let's head over to Sointula. So we took the ferry across. Now, in Audrey and Samuel's thing, they said, when you do this, make sure you drive. They suggested you drive. This a little bigger island, and there's some cool things you need to drive to. And so we drove down these little narrow roads all the way down to my navigation. We ended up way down there, and we knew we were there when it said Land's End. That's it. But I got to tell you, on the way, we saw some interesting characters. There were all kinds of these things everywhere. Sorry, it's a little out of focus there. But then we saw these, and I don't know whether that is a young golden eagle. Is it a bald eagle, young one, amateur? There was two of them, and they were as far away from me as you. They were just like right there. That was cool. And so that was cool. There was another one up in the tree right next to it. And that's kind of what I thought, is that they were young because they get them modeled. But this was pretty incredible over there. And beautiful views and everything. I probably wouldn't market everybody to go over there and drive the island because there's a lot of roads that are one lane. I think the speed limit on the island was like 60 clicks an hour. And you don't go more than 40 on this island. Because, the roads are narrow. Most of them are gravel. But there was some cool stuff. The moss was so thick. It was pretty cool. Pretty cool seeing it. But one thing I would suggest if you have people go over there is to make sure they bring a high clearance vehicle. Now, granted, because most of the roads are gravel, a lot of them have pretty big, humongous potholes. And so you have to watch where you're driving. We did go out to Bear Point Regional Park, which we thought was beautiful out there. Even this time of year, there was some good information. Once again, there was good information on signs that we couldn't find in brochures or anything. So we need to connect these things better. Had a great little place where it did have some pit toilets there, and they talked about the beautiful Bay Trail. Because we were working in Port McNeill, if we would have more time, we would have probably walked the trail. It was pretty wet the day we went there, but once again, we heard it was pretty great. Back at the ferry dock, unfortunately, you get off the ferry, and this is around hidden behind it. And it's like, why is this? Why'd you go hide it around the corner? I would move that around to where it was more visible because it's got information. It's got the ferry schedules. It's also got doggy pickup stuff. And then I thought, man, if I was them, I would put visitor information right there. By the way, I showed you those fancy visitor information, those little things. But you know what? You could go on Amazon or any office supply. This is in the Bruce Peninsula in Ontario. All you need is one of those. It's a real estate hold brochure. They're like $15. You need a place, once we arrive, give us brochures. Tell us what there is to see and do, where we should go. If you can get people to spend 2 hours in your community, whether it's Sointula, Alert Bay, Port McNeill, spending doubles. 2 hours and spending will double. Because now it's ready for lunch, or get something to drink, get something to eat, or stop into a gallery. I mean, this is in Mahone Bay, Nova Scotia. They've got those. Or look at this. This is Wickford in Rhode Island. You need to get information in the hands of people because they spend more money. So now we're on Sointula. And by the way, I would suggest that people go to Sointula, spend pretty much the day there. Remember, Port McNeill's getting the overnight stays. So a day to do Alert Bay, or half a day to do Alert Bay, and maybe go to Telegraph Cove, and then a full day to go to Sointula. So far, we've got them for 2 nights. Okay? But when we're there, the one challenge we had in Sointula, there's even less places to spend money, and it's not a Monday, than there were on Alert Bay. We did see this upper crust bakery, and luckily it was open, and we had time. But once again, these are the kinds of things you see everywhere, and you just go, just take it down. That's not doing you any good. But inside it was great. One thing we see is guitars, so we knew they had entertainment. It would have been great if there was a little sign that says, hey, every Friday, Saturday night, we have live entertainment, whatever it is. It was great. The food was good, fresh bread. I had a ham and cheese sandwich. Jane had a bowl of soup. It was really good. It's funny, these little places you can find like that, you know? But one thing we learned in watching one of those videos with Audrey and Samuel was that if you go into the co-op, they actually sell Finnish-made goods. So in the video, Samuel right here said, you gotta buy this licorice. Made in Finland, it's fantastic. I went in the store and asked for some, and they said, we're always sold out. That is the power of social media. Because seeing these videos is tens of thousands of people. And by the way, this guy, and by the way, he actually grew up on Vancouver Island. But now they travel all over the world. I don't know where they live now, but they actually grew up here. But I wanted to show you something. This view of Sointula was seen 38,000 times. And that's just since November. And you want to know something else? Look at how many subscribers they have. 287,000. 287,000 people saw, they got the posting about going to Vancouver Island. Out of those, 38,000 saw them. And all those 38,000 people are hearing about this licorice, and I couldn't buy it because they can't keep it in stock. That is the power of video and the power of people providing information like that. But we did buy some Finnish-made cookies and other stuff while we were there. So we came back, and we came to Northern Lights, which was closed for some reason for several days. And then luckily, when we got back, it was open. And we did have dinner there. It was great. This is the other night. They had 24 kids from, I think, Alert Bay or Sointula, from one of the schools. And they're all having dinner, and they're having a great time. It was great. And there you go. Look at this statistic. 70% of all bricks and mortar retail spending takes place after 6 p.m. open. Are you open? And look at this. In the U.S. and Canada, in the 50s and 60s, the average time we ate dinner was between 5:30 and 6. It's right now, it's close to 7:30. Here's the other thing you got to think about. Anybody coming here, they're coming to North, and I'm talking about visitors. We're coming here either to work. And by the way, our hotel where we're staying, the Black Bear, is it Black Bear? Black Bear Resort. When we were on Sunday, there's like 2 cars in the parking lot. This week, that hotel's been pretty much full. They're all pickup trucks. Because they're mainly timber, mining, government, Shaw Communications. They're mainly workers. But during the weekends, this is where tourism can help fill that little gap. But here's the deal. If we're here as a visitor during the day, we're at Telegraph Cove, or we're out kayaking, we're out with guide services, or we're out sightseeing, or we're out doing all that stuff. We come back at 6 or 7 o'clock at night, and you've already rolled up the sidewalks. You have restaurants that close at 7 when we're eating dinner at 7:30. I mean, why do you do this? If you don't change with the times, you're going to die. And so that was really something, you know. So now, Wednesday, time to dig into Port McNeill. You ready? First of all, Rona moved to the marine store. Where the heck is the marine store? We could find no store in town that said marine store on it. I mean, you know, and for locals, you all know. And then we decided to check out all your neighborhoods. And I have a question for you. Is there anybody in Port McNeill that does not own a boat, a trailer, or an RV? 1, 2, woohoo, 3. But you know what? It tells me that you are ultra recreationally oriented. It does. I didn't see it this as a negative. And by the way, we happen to own a travel trailer. And so it was just like every single house, yeah, every one. I was like, wow. I mean, it tells me that, you know, it tells me, number one, people love it here. Because in Port McNeill, the homes were far better taken care of than the ones we saw on the islands. And I know some of this is income, some of it's just cultural. But once again, we drove through the neighborhoods. We were picking out houses. Oh, I want to buy that one. And by the way, this is the Upper West Side. It was like, whoa, they live on the Upper West Side, yeah. I made that up, but it is the Upper West Side. Anyway, and that one was for sale. I didn't look to see how much it was, but it was like, whoa. I mean, you know what? When we do assessments, we start looking at houses, you know, we must think very highly of you. Because we even thought, that's pretty nice. And that had views overlooking the islands and everything. But we started going around and even down on the waterfront, you know, and so very nice. Even these Cape Cod style houses are like twins right there. We wanted one of those. And another thing we picked right away in Port McNeill is just about everybody has to have a monkey puzzle tree. And this one actually has a monkey in it. You know, I got to tell you, I grew up in Friday Harbor and San Juan Island. We had a monkey puzzle tree. So I don't know what it is about these islands in Vancouver that you get monkey puzzle trees, which are from what? South America. But they're super hardy. Maybe that's why. But I thought we just got a kick out of that. I thought that was really funny. We looked at your schools. They look great. And I got to tell you, somebody coming here for a job to invest money, they're going to drive by your schools and they're going to judge the book by the cover. Your schools passed the test. We didn't dig in to see how good the educational attainment is and all those things, but overall, we just thought that the schools looked good. I mean, it was just, you know, they were just really nice. We thought, this is really great. You know, elementary school, you know, here, the sign could use some pressure washing, but that happens this time of year. But overall, we were impressed. And then, I mean, you also have the curling center, the arena. Our thing is, the quality of life in Port McNeill is pretty outstanding for 2,000 residents. Pretty cool. And so that was good. Even by town hall, we drove up there and we saw these, I think these are like retirement housing. Really nice. I was like, whoa, we're getting close. We could get one of those. But once again, very nice. So we just thought, and we're driving around and all of a sudden we went, wow, another industrial park. Uh-oh. But this one was amazing. I mean, this one, it was neat. It was orderly. There was cool buildings like that structure. It looked like an accordion. It probably was. But we still can't find the world's largest burrow. And so we did see that, and it was very nice. And when we saw the industrial park, we went, whew, sigh of relief for Port McNeill, because it shows you have industry. It was organized, well-maintained. There weren't, you know, in the other one, 90% of the vehicles there had been abandoned for at least 20 years. And so we finally thought, okay, we got to find the damn thing. Okay, darn thing. And so we drove around, we thought, you know what, we kept going back towards Telegraph Cove. We said, maybe we need to go towards Port Hardy. And guess what? We finally found it. Sort of. Yeah, okay. That's what I thought. So we came here. This was in videos. We saw it back there. We went, there it is. And then we saw it's covered in fiberglass. It's actually, there's holes in the fiberglass. It's actually shrinking in there. And so we did see that. You know, we thought, you need to move this burl into the heart of your spending district because there's nowhere to spend money there. You just get out, you look at it, you take a picture, a selfie like Jane did, and then we're going, okay, this is it. And by the way, even the sign, somebody made sure that it was only a 35-year-old spruce tree. They took out the zero. It was probably 350. And so at least we found the burl. And even the sign could be refreshed. So now we come into downtown. Time to find stuff in Port McNeill. And so we did, the marina looks fantastic. It's vibrant. It reminded me of Friday Harbor where I grew up. It has you have a beautiful waterfront here. I mean, this is pretty good, and even on kind of a rainy, cloudy day. I don't know, is the entire waterfront called Harbor Park, or is Harbor Park just this? You don't even know. You just call it the waterfront. Okay, no big deal. And we did see your clock tower right there and the visitor information. Now, you may be wondering, why didn't we go to visitor information when we first arrived? We waited until like Wednesday on purpose because only 5% of visitors will go into a visitor information center. That's the national statistic in Canada and in the US. 5% will go into a visitor information center. So we wanted to be like the other 95%. We're in a restaurant. Do you have brochures? Where do you have things? And so, but on Wednesday we did go in. And by the way, what's with this one-way street? It's the only one-way street in town. It's the worst place for a one-way street. I'm going, what the heck is that about? I mean, I understand right here, now we've created this, they call this a bulb out to make it really difficult, but I went, the one place where if we're coming from the campground, we want to get visitor information, how do we do it? We have to go up and around and all the way around, and I mean, I just thought, why would you take the one street that's so important and make it one way? I did read you're doing a community plan. The first thing I do is fix that. You need to make things easy for people. They'll spend more money. And so I just couldn't figure that one out, what the rationale was for that. There probably is. Remember, we haven't talked to anybody first. But even at your visitor information should have brochure distribution. Because we did go there during the week, and once it's closed, at the end of the day, we can't get any information. So we just thought, could you add signs letting people know? You can even put 24/7 visitor info, and even if it's just that box, that brochure holder outside with the new brochure that you're going to produce would be fantastic. Because even this brochure, we did not get it until Wednesday. It was the only place in town we could even find it was there. Now, not a big deal because this didn't have a lot of useful information in it. But with your new one, I think it's going to be important to get it out to retailers, in restaurants, in hotels, because that would be great. But right here would be a great place to put something. Right there, kind of out of the wind there. And by the way, Emma is fantastic. She did a great job. She's due at the end of May, we found out. But she grew up on the island, so she knows the area well. Her parents own an RV park, or used to, I think they still do. Is she here by chance? There she is! The star of the show. Jane went in and talked to her for quite a while, and then I came in and spilled the beans. And we told her she passed. She did a great, great job. You know, a lot of times when you come into rural communities like this, you'll ask locals, what is there to do around here? And you know what they'll say? Nothing. Not one single person we talked to, young or old, in this town said that. Not one. And yeah, so congratulations to you. But she did a really great job. If any question we had, she would answer. I mean, this is a great setting. It had great collection of information there. I mean, it was fantastic. But what was really interesting, I was sitting there talking to her, and then all of a sudden I noticed this. Find yourself along rugged trails. Here it is Wednesday. We've already been here since Sunday. So Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. We're here Wednesday afternoon. We finally find out you have a trail app. I would take these little things. They're called table tents, little triangular thing. I would take them to all your restaurants. You do? They didn't put them out. They should be in restaurants. They should be in every hotel room, just so we know. I thought that's cool. That's the one. I said apps should be at the bottom of the list, but trails are one thing where we'll use an app. But you should also have your trails on an app called All Trails. All Trails is the #1 app for trails in the world. And it's free to put trails on there. So you could also do that. But we saw that there, and I hope that we could get this in your retailers and that they will do that. We also saw a lot of utility boxes have been wrapped, and we thought that was awesome. It helps bring us into your culture. I thought they were beautifully done. Very nice way to take a utility, turn lemons into lemonade with those. I thought it was great. This, I would probably get rid of. What's that? On the list. Now, I know people may have at one point paid to put their things on there, but you know what? People aren't going to do that. They're not going to go up there and read them, and they're not going to bring a clipboard with them and write down, oh, while we're here, let's go to U-Brew, which I don't even know if it still exists. Gus's Pub does. Fishing charters and tours. I mean, I have a better solution for all that. And by the way, I would even put a fence around those with some gates, because one of the best fences we've ever seen in British Columbia is just up the hill, hiding nothing. That's a cool fence. I just thought, man, if we could take that and wrap 3 sides of that, you would look really nice. So, but down on the waterfront, we also saw this. I have no idea what it is. There's no interpretive sign. All the wood around it's rotting. And I think you should either put a new wood barrier and interpretive sign or just get rid of it. I don't know what the purpose is. I know it's part of history. It's probably a steam engine, saw, or something to do with timber or maybe mining. I don't know. But I don't know what its purpose is. It's a steam donkey? But even that, there's no sign. See what I mean? If somebody would explain what it is and where it's used, then it becomes useful. And by the way, that keeps us busy longer. And when we're busy longer, we spend more money. Get it? See, this is you know what? I come from the tourism industry, but I got to tell you, tourism is just a means to an end. If you, heaven forbid, ever go to Campbell River for anything, Costco, am I naming a few? Walmart, all those, wherever you go, Comox Valley, wherever you go, that's leakage. You earn your money here, but I'll bet you some of it spent maybe even in Port Hardy. Tourism is a great way to fill that gap. So tourism is a means to an end to get people to spend money. And so when I think about tourism, how are we monetizing? It's great if you can get lots of people to drive Sointula, but if we're not spending any money, all you did is clutter up their streets and make it a nightmare for locals. So you have people complaining about tourism, it's because you're not monetizing it. So with that, tell us what it's for. We did see a museum back through the trees and through the fence and through the boats. And then we saw this sign that said something about museum. So we did turn in there and we found a museum. And it looks beautiful, except it's open 6 hours a week. Now, that's really sad. Now, I understand this probably by volunteers, right? And these are volunteers that give a lot and everything. But you know what? I saw somewhere that this is open different hours in the summer. Then put it on the door because it's an invitation to come back. That's what I would do. I'd put winter hours, Saturday and Sunday, 1 to 4, and then I'd put summer hours. But I would identify summer hours. Otherwise, we're going to think the only time to ever go there is July and August. So, and I hope that you will start being April 1st, right now, even May 1st, but April 1st through the end of October. I think that should be your peak season. If you do that, it's going to be great. And then we saw another building kind of through the trees, and we thought maybe that's where we're meeting. You know, we knew this theater existed, but I didn't look at my itinerary to see where. I saw this like a community hall. So we drove to the community hall, and Jane goes, "Oh my God, look at that!" What the hell? Okay, now here's the question. Which one really is the world's largest? This one? And I went up, and this one, I said, look at it, it's really wood. It wasn't fiberglass. I mean, we were like, wow. Because you know what? We had driven by the sign. We never saw that one because the wayfinding is so like, yeah. So we did go there, and there it is. Yes, Instagram. And that's, see what I mean? How would we have ever known? We didn't ask Emma on purpose because we knew we got to find that thing. And while we were over there on the lower west side, we decided we did go up and we did see your RV campground up there. It looked nice. There's people up there, and I was glad there weren't permanent residents up there. With all RV parks that are publicly owned, I always say no more than 30 days. Because the second they become longer than 30 days, you end up with blue tarps and banjo music again. And so, I mean, that looked great. We saw this blue and white tour boat, this one right there. We saw that when we were out on one of the ferries coming back, but we kept going. I wonder if they do island cruises, and this looks like that. We could find no information. But do they do tours? Oh, they don't do tours. It's a big boat that looks like it hold like 150 people. Well, the one that's blue and white, look, it has a big long area where it can host parties and all kinds of stuff. Okay, the one on the right. But here's the thing. First of all, I want to go down there and see if I can get brochures, but this dock is locked. That's why we asked Emma, and she says, yeah, it's a private dock. But I even thought, well, could we put a brochure holder down there if there are tour boats that just said, here's our tour, here's our tour. But we actually have a better idea for you. I'm going to get to that in a minute. Or even perhaps here, I mean, you have and I thought, Dragon Boat Society, do you have dragon boats here? That's awesome. I mean, and so I just thought, wow, you could even put a kiosk there. They talk about the Dragon Boat, you know, when they come, when they race, when they, you know, if somebody wanted to join. I mean, somewhere we were looking for a place where we could get information. You know, besides, remember, 95% aren't going to go in and talk to Emma. And so we have a big idea for this space. But we decided, let's think about it. So we decided to go shopping. So we went and had lunch at Tia's Cafe, and it was great, very nice. Seemed to be kind of a place where a lot of locals would go. You know, we had soup and a sandwich, and it was nicely laid out. Very nice place. And then we went over to Close Inn. It was a great shop. They had tons of merchandise. The gals that were working in there were excellent. They were young, high school, probably age or just out of high school, young 20s, whatever. And they were excellent. By the way, on all these signs, get rid of the phone numbers. That's so 1970s. These days, we don't call anybody. As a matter of fact, we text them and say, is it okay if I call you now? And so you'd be better off just putting a URL there. And so we did go there. Now this, I have no clue. I don't know whether this is permanently closed, whether it's brand new, whether it's being remodeled, whether it's ever going to open. And I just thought, somebody's putting a lot of time and effort into this. Is this going to be open this year? When? It's brand new? Why is there no sign that says opening summer of 2020, open May 1st, open June 1st, open anything? No signs that say, come on back. I mean, I just go, why do your businesses do this? They can be taking reservations now. But it looks, I love all the color and everything, but no signs. All it says is no parking. So we didn't know what it was, or when, or if. I mean, our first thing was, oh my gosh, if this is old and closed, we could just take it out and put a little downtown, some build cool little shops there. But we won't do that since it's brand new. We did go into Timberland Sports Center. They were just redoing the window displays were in there. And they had a good collection of some stuff. A little sparse on some things, but it could be because of the time of year. We kept thinking we kept thinking about things. We worked in a place called Westport, Washington. Westport is on the Washington coast across from a place called Ocean Shores, where we actually worked for years. And Westport, they do a cool thing where you can go into any shop like this, and you can buy little crab traps. They're like this big, look like a little bird feeder type thing, and then you put pieces of fish in there, and then you fly fish them out from docks, and they land out there, and then Dungeness crab or rock crab will crawl on them, try to get that, and when you feel that, you reel them in, and if they're male crabs, and if they're certain, you buy the little measuring stick, and then if they fit, I mean, we kept thinking, how could you bring people into the experience more? And they had a few things, but it was really more for the commercial fishing or for just people that are just regular fishing. But he kept thinking, there's got to be a way to engage people more with your waterfront. We also went into fields, and we spent a lot at the IGA store. We were in there several times because that's where we go provision up for drinks and stuff when we were hitting the road out there. And so we went in. Now this row of shops here, I'm telling you, this one building has zero curb appeal. And this is not really, I feel bad for merchants in a building like this where it doesn't look like there's been any effort. I mean, all these are papered up. And even though this is all papered up, the Shed Outdoor Store, our first impression was this was the Shed and that it was out of business. And I feel sorry for the people that run the Shed because I would assume this was their store and it's all papered up. And they actually are in business, but you know what? There was really not much that made me want to go into this little strip mall. It just, why does everything have to be gray, brown, and beige? Add some color. That's one of the things we like about Telegraph Cove. There's some color, reds, blues. That's what I like about even, what's a Humpback Inn or whatever the little motel is. Had some color. But even this restaurant, we totally did not go there because it just did not look like a good place to eat. And it's really a shame. I feel bad for the owner. And by the way, even when it comes to hotels and motels, I'm going to give you a big statistic right now. The top 15% of hotels, motels, B&Bs, in terms of quality, do 85% of the business. The best hotel is the one I can't pronounce in Port Hardy. The native, what is it? Qualilas. It was really gorgeous and online. I mean, if we weren't working in Port McNeill, we probably would have stayed there. What you need to understand is that both boomers and millennials and even the Gen Xers, the in-between, will pay more to stay in quality lodging. As a matter of fact, your lodging can be a primary draw. So one thing is that 85%, and we saw most of them look pretty much like we only cater to highway workers and you know what I mean, the working crowd, but even them, they're filling up the Black Bear where we're at, which is a decent hotel. I mean, that parking lot's been full every night this week. And I haven't seen that at some of the other ones. And so, but curb appeal is really critically important. And look at this. Women account for 80% of all consumer spending. I'm waiting again. I'm sure there's a guy in the audience that just won't say it, but I usually hear these words. That's all? Absolutely true. And women, the top priority, it must look safe, It must look clean, it must look well-maintained, and it must look inviting. That is the power curb appeal. Now, is this where Rona ended up? Okay, because that says Marine Store. But the shop right here was like, this is it. If you want to do any fishing, you want to do pretty much anything out there in recreation, everything, this is probably where I would send people. Of course, ShopRite, I'm very familiar with ShopRite. And I think they do a good job. It's well merchandised, and I thought, pretty good. Now, we tried to go in every single shop we could. Now, if I was thinking about hiring helicopters to do a tour, I would probably not hire Grizzly. I mean, this whole thing just made me think of poor Kobe Bryant. You know, I mean, that scared a lot of people. And I've been in a lot of helicopters, and I love them. But when I see blown out signs like this, and when I see stuff like this, I just go, not going with them. And they probably are fantastic. But what would you think? This looks like it'd be a great restaurant, coffee shop, little bistro. Is this going to be anything? Anybody know? Is it yours?
No, I'm just going to be the one that's going to be opening it up.
And what are you going to do? Yes! You know what I would do? Put a sign there that says opening. When are you going to open? Let's tell everybody. When are you going to open? What's that, the first week of May? Or long weekend? Somewhere in May. So if you just put coming soon, such and such coffee shop, opening, middle of May, it's just an invitation for us to come back. It's a great location. And I hope you'll be able to do the outdoor deck in the summer, and that would be fantastic. Good for you. It should be food. This one here, it's got a little inn up there. If it was me, I mean, I wouldn't want to sit in that chair looking at asphalt in a parking lot. I thought, man, if you could just take this whole thing and make this a garden. I know there's your parking spaces, 1, 2, 3, 4 of them. I thought, man, I would make this, or at least take a meter or so out here and just add some beautification so that you're looking something other than asphalt. Then with these, you know, we have seawolf and mackay, whale watching or mackay, whale watching there, and they're kind of hidden. They're next to a laundromat, and I'm going, okay, this is just not good. There's no brochure distribution. I don't know when or if they're ever open. You have all these guide services like, where are they? And so we have an idea for this. Over here, we thought this would be a great place for an outfitter or a microbrewery or even a brew house. What? Yes! See, and nobody even told us that. What's that?
Now you're validated.
Yes! Finally. But I thought, man, I love it when in the summer you could open up the doors. Great for a brew pub or even a microbrewery. So I thought that was excellent. It's just such a good location. Easy walk down to the ferry and everything. Just excellent. Will it be the whole thing? Or just one half of it? 2/3 of it? Fantastic. Really great. I mean, the things that are missing in this town are a microbrewer, brew pub. I know you got Gus's, but you need another one. There's no bakery. No bakery. I mean, you have to go over to Sointula to get fresh baked goods from what I could tell. I mean, I do know IGA has a bakery in there. So, or was it them? I think so. But anyway, so you know what's coming back into downtowns, and that would be fantastic in a town in 2000. And this is really true. The butcher, the baker, and the candlestick maker. Etsy-style shops are coming back into downtowns. You know, this whole week I came and I didn't bring a pair of gloves, like driving gloves, thin gloves. And I went into my gloves had this little rubber coating so you could use an iPhone or whatever and you wouldn't have to take off your gloves. And the rubber on it was all coming apart. Our car is covered with black. So I went into every shop. Nobody had anything. Nobody. You know, I finally found a pair close in that would work, and I did buy those. But I was just surprised that you don't really have enough retail to even support a town of 2,000. And I think the reason is that number one, I think people that live here just do those weekend trips to Campbell River or wherever, or go off island, or they're going over to Port Hardy, or what, I don't know where they're going, but you could use more retail, but you don't really have an organized downtown. And so I thought, how do we, there's got to be a way to do that. But I'm glad to see both a brew pub and the coffee shop coming. That's fantastic. So, now, will you serve breakfast? Yeah, good. That would be fantastic. Because even Tia's opens at 9, but I think she only does breakfast like one day a week. So we were like, is there any place besides Subway? I think Archipelago might be open for breakfast. But remember, if you're the base camp, we're getting up in the morning, we want to eat. And we didn't want to eat at our hotel. They had breakfast in there, but we only ate there once because we wanted to be out. And so having the brew pub and having, that's 2 of the holes you needed to fill. So I'm really good for you. So guess what? Wednesday afternoon we went, okay, you know what? We came here an extra day early. Let's go back to Alert Bay again. And this time, we did find the world's largest totem pole. But once again, we would have never found, this time we drove. Which I didn't really want to do, but it was rainy and we weren't too sure what we were going to get there. I mean, it was off and on Wednesday. And so this time we drove and we finally found it. There's no signage to it. But, even when you take pictures of these things in marketing, there's Jane. Always put people in your photographs. We relate to people more than objects or places. So when you take a picture of somebody looking out, the back of them looking out over a vista, we are more inclined to put ourselves in their shoes than just looking at a vista. Always have people. Plus that adds scale. Look at how tall that is. And granted, she's short, which helps. But I mean, it's amazing how tall that really is. And even here, I think this is what they call the big house, right? But there's no interpretive sign. It needs to be freshed up and everything. And so if we go back to that brochure you're going to create, I put a question mark on this. Because as much as they talk about the Namgis burial ground and respecting it, this place was just littered with trash everywhere. I would not promote this if there's nobody ever going to clean this up. So here we're going to respect this area, and this is where you hold all of the potlatches and everything, I think, and yet it was just garbage everywhere. And so I would not promote it if it's going to continue to look like that. Because I just think it sent a bad image about the First Nations people there. Or whoever it is that's just littering it up. This time we did go over to the Umistic Cultural Center, which is fantastic. It's one of the best attractions in northern Vancouver Island. It's really great. You can't photograph all of it, of course, but I mean, just the masks alone make this worth the trip. I mean, it's amazing. We actually collect First Nations art. Matter of fact, I was working over in Terrace, and I ended up buying like $1,500 worth of First Nations art for our house. And so here, I mean, I was going, wow, which one of these will I get? We didn't purchase anything, but I kept looking at them. It is amazing. And they tell great stories there. It's just a great place. And so it would absolutely be on our list. But even little places like this, you could tell this is a big cedar log, I think. You can see they're splitting. I thought, even if this person, there's all these craftsmen, woodworkers and everything there, I kept going, man, if some of these people would just put interpretive signs, you know what? When people meet artists in action, they're 4 times more likely to buy art. Even this down at the docks I thought was excellent. Where probably school kids painted all these. I thought, what a great way to turn concrete into something that's attractive. But you know what was really cool about driving over there? And I wouldn't suggest everybody drive over there, but even things like this at the local school, I thought, wouldn't it be cool if a private business could do a little trolley tour of Alert Bay? So you don't want people driving all over the island. There's not that many roads. But I thought somebody had this little trolley tour and they charge $10 or something, and they take people out and they show them things like this art here. Or we even saw, like this here, it says, Numa's one-stop shop. I don't know what it's a one-stop shop for. It doesn't seem to be open to the public, but look at all the cool art. I mean, there was a couple places we saw the longboats that were really cool. They're at people's houses, and I just kept going, oh my gosh, I wish, and that we would have never found this had we not just been driving around aimlessly. So, in closing, I've got a couple ideas for you. Because we think this place is world class. Really is. I kept coming back to this, and I kept going, I would like to turn this into a plaza. Because right now, it's mucky, it's grassy, it's full of water, it's full of, well, you know what? And even when I was there, this down here, all this whole sidewalk down there is clear covered with water. There was a woman with her little girl, and her little girl's wearing rubber boots, and of course she loved that water. But for everybody else, it's like, this is just, it's pretty, but it's not really a people place. Maybe it is during the summer, but I kept going, could we turn this into, we've got this little patio area there, but it's just not great. And all over, I mean, this is the one thing with the stupid Canadian geese. No offense, I mean, but they leave, I mean, you couldn't walk anywhere. I thought, you can't, it's really hard to rake this lawn, to take care of it. And I kept going, what if? We've got the harbor office and the visitor information center. What if you created a really nice walkway all the way around there, like way wider than it is now? That might even have benches there where you could just sit there and watch the working waterfront. Then what if this whole area was all paver stones, no grass, all paver stones, no asphalt, no concrete, all paver stones because water can get right through it. And you could even terrace it. So this might be a little higher. This could be a flat area. This might stay curved right here in little flat areas where you can put benches and you can put all kinds of activities. And I thought, what if you even put a stage there? And then what if you add almost like amphitheater seating there? Oh my gosh. Now you got a place for people to hang out. And then wrapped around the harbor office would be all greenery. You can make that pretty much where it is. Obviously, there'd be sidewalks going in there and stuff. I did this really quick. And then we put street trees out here. We just put some nice shade trees out here, this area. All of a sudden, you have a place that's about people, not just a pretty park. And I tell downtowns all the time, turn your parks into people places. And so if you did a surface down here, and I even looked at this, I thought, man, what a waste for parking, highest and best use. Now, this isn't even here, is it? Okay, I thought, am I missing something? I don't remember that being there. So this is, what's that? It's not there either. Okay, that's what I thought. So this is an old Google Earth image. But this kind of a surface, paver stone surface. I mean, they're like $15 a square foot installed. I mean, you can see all the stuff I'm putting there. Lawns, they're maintenance nightmares. And particularly when you get a lot of rain and everything. And I just thought synthetic turf is okay, but it's kind of cheesy. But even a stage like this cover can actually come off of it. But a stage like that where you could host events and bands, I mean, down the road, you might even take part of it and cover it. This is in Missoula, Montana. And I even thought, if you ever been to Vancouver, and if you're ever in North Vancouver and you look across over to Vancouver, their convention center has kind of these kinds of things. And so, I mean, something like this down the road could be, it's just, where's the community living room? Where do people that live here go to hang out as locals? So forget tourism for a minute. And this is what other towns will actually take a piece of street and they just put that, this is a temporary little park and they put in these big chess pieces. In Edmonton, Alberta, they've got even the stairs are places for people to sit. So this would be kind of like that curved amphitheater, just be some steps. So this is this whole thing about creating this great, you could even make these fundraising to help raise funds for this plaza you want to develop. You could even take your trees and put them in these. These are all movable with a forklift so that you can actually move them around depending on different kinds of events. Wouldn't it be cool if sometimes you actually lit it up? But here's the key thing, programming. You don't want to create just a space. Wouldn't it be great if you bought a few of these? This is 4 in a row, like tic-tac-toe, Jenga blocks. Look at that. You could get all of these. And I'm not going to go through all this now because I'm going to be sending you an assessment findings and suggestions report. It's going to have all the stuff in it. But you could get a local bank. You could get IJ, somebody, a law firm. Somebody could say, well, I'll buy those for our plaza. And then you put out an A board or a sandwich board that says, these games courtesy such and such law firm or Port McNeill IGA or whatever. But it's a good way to bring people in. These things you can buy $750 a piece, total investment. Wouldn't it be cool? It's just stuff where you have places where people can come and hang out. I mean, even these things are weatherproof. So these are not ones you put in your house that'll fall apart in the weather you get. But I kept thinking of what kind of things could we put out there in the summer? Just having hula hoops for kids. You want a place where your 2,000 residents can come and hang out. I love these. These are called spun chairs. They're the coolest things ever. You know what? If you had stuff like that, you'd have people. Wouldn't it be great if Port McNeill was hanging out in if Port Hardy was hanging out in Port McNeill? That's what you do. And so you get all of these things. These are musical instruments. And you don't have to have all of these. You just pick and choose, and they could all be sponsored. They could be grants. I mean, then, these are all different kinds of musical instruments that are pretty permanent. Then maybe you go get a few of these booths. We kept going, where are your artisans that are locally? Where are your First Nations artisans? Where are your people that make jewelry in their homes? Where's this little public market or business incubator? This is even a portable skate park. So you can just put it up, kids go down there, and I mean, even cornhole tosses, these things. There's just tons of things you do. Even this time of year doing fire pits out there. They have propane tanks underneath of them. This is portable badminton. I'd like to do that in some of the wins you get. That'd be fun. Oh, there went our badminton is out there. But even in downtown Canmore, Alberta, they've got fitness center outside, and in the winter, they're wearing all their ski gear using it. But what I wanted you to do is just create a place where people can just come and hang out. And it's your locals. I love this. This is called Imagination Playground. So what happens is you have to have a storage place. It doesn't need to be much bigger than this part of the theater where you're all sitting. But I kept going, wouldn't it be cool? I mean, even this little girl said, excuse me, my turn. No, I didn't. But these are so cool. They're like Lincoln logs made out of foam. But then you could bring in vendors that bring in like this climbing wall. I took this in Whistler. In Whistler, they have vendors. They bring this in, put it up for a month, and they charge $2 or $3. But what you're doing is you're creating a place for your locals to hang out. And if you want to get young families back, you need public gathering places that are programmed with activities, not just pretty parks. But all of these fire pits, all of these kinds of things would be great. Even in Nova Scotia, they even allow them to bring in vendors, could you imagine doing Segway tours here on some of your trails? Some of them are trail ready. I mean, this is in downtown Halifax. It's a container. I mean, they rent bikes out there, or they, look at this. They even put a cover over this container, and the containers right there, it sells drinks and stuff. But I wanted to show you something. This is a plaza, but it's very, very simple. Notice there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 food trucks there, but other than that, it's just an empty space. But notice what they did here. These are all, notice what they're sitting on. They're wire reels. Notice the tabletop here is just a reel. Notice these are pallets back here. This is just really inexpensively done. They brought in some umbrellas. It's simple. It's a place for your locals to hang out. I'd love to see you do that. It creates a sense of community. And here's one thing that's really important. If you don't hang out in your own town, neither will visitors. They go where you go. That's really critical. Here's idea number 2. And this one Costs a little more, but I think this one would be really important. It's, first of all, our last of my statistics, there are no off-season. The biggest tourism spenders visit April, May, September, October is their peak months. And you're close to the biggest spenders that can travel. This is boomers that can travel during the peak, during when everybody else is in school. They don't want to be here in July and August. They want to be here now. You need to be open April 1st through October. Your businesses need to get on board with that too. And you need 8 months of activity. You already have 8 months worth of activity. You just have to have the supporting businesses there. So, I would love to see you build one of these. This is a pavilion. Thank you very much. We got the person that's going to run it already. This could be whatever size you want. I think if it was the size of this theater, would be a great start. It could be, I think it should be like 3 times bigger. But these are all glass in these garage doors. And on 3 sides, you could roll them all up and it's an open pavilion in the summer. Or if it's a little bit cool, you could have every other door open. Or if it's the winter and it's windy, you could have them all closed. And 3 sides, they all open up into a public market. Or I would just call it a pavilion, the Port McNeill Pavilion. And inside, it's just an open floor plan. Wouldn't it be great when the dragon boats come in and they had a place they could go and they could even do awards. They could set up shop in there. They could sell dragon boats. They could have vendors in there. Wouldn't it be great if kayaking clubs came up in and they had a place? Wouldn't it be great if you even did car shows, pottery guilds? Can you imagine inviting all these different kinds of organizations to host their events in Port McNeill? All you need is this pavilion. Sometimes it could be full of vendors, you know, like a farmer's market during the summer months. It's always changing. In the winter, we give locals a place they can just walk around inside when it's too windy and cold outside or too wet. I mean, just doing something like this, it's just all open on the inside. And you know what's heated is the concrete floor is heated. So that's your heating with it. Even on the outside, these all vent up here. I mean, I just think doing a pavilion here, there's not one in Port Hardy, is there? Port Alice, anywhere. Cole Harbour, nowhere. You could own it. You could own it for the whole north end of Vancouver Island. I mean, it would be so cool to do this. I mean, this is one they did in Olympia, Washington, an hour south of Seattle. And all these are like barn doors. They just slide open in their case. I like it if it has light in there because you have, you know, when you get a lot of rain in there, it'd be nice to let light in there and you can close those. But just having a place that could be whatever you want it to be, whenever you want it to be. All those things I showed you outside on your plaza could be done in this. Can you imagine if you had a lot of little vendor booths and then you had photography vendors, you had kayaking tour. Can you imagine if all these tour guides that are in Port McNeill had a place where you could walk in and just see what they have to offer? They might pay $50 a month and they get maybe 2 meters wide space that they could put photographs, contact information, a little bench with their brochures. How cool would that be? I mean, and it's only like $50 a month for them, and then you could go in there. It doesn't even have to have these little A-frames like this, just a space. You know, I mean, wouldn't it be cool if you had artisans in action there, people actually doing First Nations art, whether it's pottery or anything, and they could rotate in and out. I mean, you could do artisans, there you go, food items, outfitting items, clothing and outdoor gear, gear rentals, guide services, co-op art market. You have so much art up here, and we couldn't find one single gallery anywhere that was open. And I mean, in season, I just kept thinking, if you could do one of these, it would be fantastic. Because I got to tell you that when I went online in the great website, and it had Spirit of the West Adventures, Seawolf Adventures, Ripple Coast Society, all of these things there, they could all have a space in there. plus all the other activities. Because one of them I saw, it had private custom tours, and this is Rolf Hicker. Does anybody know Rolf? I want to go do one of his tours. Because he does photography tours, and I grew up in a family of photographers, and he does a maximum of 4 guests. Custom tours ideal for families, couples, special needs photographers of all levels. And and on the website, it took him to there, and look at his Instagram. I just went, oh, I need to hook up with this guy. But you know what? Other than going to his website and digging, wouldn't it be great if I walked into your pavilion and there was a whole thing for Rolf Hicker? And he pays like $50 a month. And I mean, he might even have a screen there that just has his Instagram. Look at this stuff. I'm in. That alone is a reason for me to come to North Vancouver. Wouldn't it be great if your guide services were that much more successful? You've got a lot of them. But they're hidden. I mean, can you imagine a pavilion inviting in chainsaw carvers? Inviting in potters, all of these kinds of things. You know, and I kept going, could we put it here? Do we move it out? I kept going, where would we put this pavilion? You know, I thought, could it be, well, maybe over there, that's the boat parking lot. You know, I thought, I don't know where we'd park the boats. Maybe they could go back there, you know, but I don't know. I was just looking at where could we put this pavilion? We can't, you know, whether this is gone now, but whether it could be part of out here near the waterfront, or could it be somewhere along in here? We'd probably lose this parking lot unless we had it extend out and they parked underneath it, you know, or could it be somewhere? We kept going, where near the waterfront could we create this? I just think it would be the coolest thing you could ever do. And yeah, it's probably going to cost a couple $1 million to do it. But you know what? It creates a business incubator. It makes you a year-round destination. Weather is never an object. It creates a place for locals to come and hang out. I mean, I kept going. There's got to be a place that we could do this, you know. And so I just kept looking, you know, where could we do this? You know, this is where the boat parking is right now. I'm going, why are your best view properties parking lots? Highest and best use, not parking. So, in closing, the very best of the North Island, North Vancouver Island, the top 10 must-see and do adventures of North Vancouver Island, plus I put in a couple of bonuses. And here's what I put on your list. This is what you should have in your brochure. 1 panel for each one of these. Plus, you'll have an introductory panel that talks about why Port McNeill should be your base camp. And then the back can give you directions and everything. But I kept going. The drive from Nanaimo. And if you come off of Nanaimo, make sure you take the coastal route, because coming through Parksville takes a little longer. It's a beautiful drive. Once you get to Campbell River, great, you're on 19. I mean, the drive by itself is world class, even in March. Alice Lake Recreational Loop, if you think that's a good one, that would keep us another half day. Kayaking, boating in the Broughton Islands, which I don't know, you know what, I think to you, Sointula and Alert Bay, especially if they do some of the things we suggest, are a bigger attraction than the Broughtons, which means you have to kayak across the shipping channel. It's a little more exclusive, but I think you still promote them. But I think that would be a great thing, particularly for all your guide services. The burial grounds, the 5 Awakwas, the world's tallest totem pole, if they clean up the area. The Umista Cultural Center, there's a lot in Alert Bay. And Telegraph Cove in season, I think, is a great day trip. I mean, some people will stay there, but local tour operators and guides, you have some flat out amazing tour. I looked at their reviews on TripAdvisor stuff. They're amazing. You've got it here. And then the Port McNeill waterfront, when you activate it with either one of these, you do the pavilion or the plaza or both of them over time. When you do your community plan, I think it's your top 2 initiatives. By the way, the top 2 initiatives for revitalizing downtowns across North America is year-round public markets and open-air public plazas. Top 2. And then, you know, a top hiking trail. I don't know if it's the lighthouse at Pulteney Point. I don't know whether it's your community trail, but somewhere there's got to be a trail that's so signature. Because when people do these, then the drive to Bear Point Regional Park on Malcolm Island, I think if you did a dozen of these, and then you could put in some bonus ones. You could do one like the Shops of Port McNeill. See what I mean? I would never put lodging in this. Because when I go up to the front desk and say, do you have a brochure? What's to go around here? They don't want to hand out a brochure that has their competitors in there. But if this is all activities, things to do, they'll easily hand it out. I think this would be fantastic. By the way, let me tell you a little story. This is done in Bracebridge, Ontario, which is part of the Muskoka area, if you're familiar with Ontario at all. We do a lot of work over there. But we did one of these in Alpena, Michigan, a town of 10,000. So a little bigger than you, well, quite a bit bigger than you. But they did one of these, and what they did for everyone that was private, they paid $400 for their panel. So this is public and private places. Most of these are public. I mean, most of these, but they paid $400 per panel. So in the case of Alpena, because I don't know what they did in Bracebridge, but in the case of Alpena, they mailed one of these to every single household in their area. Snail mailed it with a little card, and here's what the card said. We hope that, the number one reason people travel is to visit friends and family. We hope that when friends and family visit you, you will show them the very best of what Port McNeill has to offer. Because we believe that every dining room table should be a concierge desk. Within days, people come downtown into Alpena. They go, got this brochure in the mail, and how long have you been here? And the merchant go, 10 years. Right? Wouldn't that be a cool thing to do? The very best of North Vancouver Island, and you're becoming the host city. I think it would be fantastic. It's useful, it's helpful. And by the way, if you do this top hiking trail, you could write in here, for the next 5 hiking trails, log on here, you give them a URL. And so if they did that one, they loved it, say, wow, I want to come back and do the next 5. You could do that. So this is not everything you're going to promote. These are the very best ofs. And by the way, I may have missed some. But this is what we saw online and in brochures and in the time we had. And you know what the whole deal is? It keeps us coming back every day to Port McNeill, even if a lot of these are day trips out. Every day. And so, to close things up, I hope you'll create a destination Port McNeill team. When I say destination, not just tourism. Destination is a place to live, place to work, place to invest in, and a place to visit. It's a group of volunteers that would take all these suggestions. There's 79 of them, including this one. And a lot of these, the only expensive things that were in there was the plaza and the pavilion. That's it. Everything else was low-hanging fruit. And it's the sum of all the parts that makes you great. I just think that what you have here is absolutely amazing. And I don't say that everywhere. I mean, all these years I grew up in the San Juans and I never went past Campbell River. We worked in Port Alberni and Comox Valley, Duncan. I mean, we've been all over the place. I remember when Nimo did nude bungee jumping. Remember that? Did anybody remember that? And I mean, but I just kept going, oh my gosh, when you drive up here, it is flat out amazing. And so with that, I can't urge you enough to do one of those 2 things in your community plan. Create a place for your 2,000 plus residents to come and hang out. And then us as visitors are going to come out and hang out with you, and we're going to spend more time and more money. And it's also a business incubator. It helps your small businesses grow. Because I will tell you one thing in closing, is if you cater to the millennials, the largest generation in Canadian history, if you cater to the millennials, you're going to get us boomers. And for you millennials, I always say, we like hanging out with you whether you like it or not. But CTV, a whole bunch of magazines, Forbes, all put together, what are the 10 things that millennials look for? And the top 5 were quality of life. You know where jobs was? 9 out of 10. Because if you create a desirable place they want to be, they will find a way to make a living. And if you can stretch your tourism season to like 8 months, then a guide service could have a full-time job being a guide service. And the same with all your retailers. And you're going to open up a new brew pub. You're going to open up a new coffee shop. You're going to have more retail coming in. And your locals should always break you even, but tourism can be your profit. But tourism for 90 days is not enough. And it is the front door. So I hope you'll do these things. And so the best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago. The best second time is today. Today is the first day of the rest of your lives. I mean, and here's to making Port McNeill even more amazing. And that's all I've got for you today.